You are now watching The Beach.
About a year ago, I did a video called the Spin-Offs Rant. This is when Paramount Plus was just starting up, and they had spin-offs of shows like iCarly and SpongeBob. iCarly was a reboot designed for a more mature audience because, you know, I definitely think of highbrow humor when I think of iCarly. And of course, SpongeBob has more spin-offs than I can even count. They just announced that they're gonna have 3 more movies. Wow! I'd say that they're milking SpongeBob for all it's worth, but all I gotta say is that they're wringing out the sponge until it's dry. But...
well, we got a Sandy movie coming out, and then we got the next 2 SpongeBob movies coming out. I mean, hasn't everyone wanted a Sandy movie?
Yeah, they probably also wanted a movie about Bubble Bass and the con artist from Chocolate with Nuts. But I digress there because...
Honestly, I'd love to see that.
That'd be funny. I think some of the concepts are funny, but it's just the amount of them is just completely oversaturated. But there was another reboot that they announced last year, and we finally got a trailer for it. And initially, I don't think I would have made a discussion video on it, but then I realized when I got home and TNT called me and said, "Did you see the Fairly OddParents reboot?" Timmy looks like he says, "Hey! I'm Timmy Turner!" We couldn't stop laughing, and that's when I knew we got to make a video on this. So the reboot is called Fairly OddParents, Fairly Odder. Very clever.
Hey!
Now, the beginning of the trailer, it had Cosmo and Wanda talking about, "Oh, we're coming back." And one thing I noticed immediately about Cosmo is that his voice nowadays, it's just so monotone. It's just like, "Hey guys, I'm Cosmo. I'm not very smart, but I can grant a wish. I'm also emo now. What else do you expect after 3 live-action movies and a show that went on too long?"
You know what else I didn't like? The fact that they were doing, very, on-the-nose references, to the theme song.
Well, nobody has original ideas for programming anymore, so you gotta definitely do that. But what struck me as the most bizarre about the whole thing is that it didn't even look like a Fairly OddParents inspired show. It just looked like a sitcom with Fairly OddParents stuff thrown in.
It seemed like an early 2000s Disney Channel show, like Johnny and the Sprites.
It did kind of seem like that, but then I remembered Ned's Declassified. Easily one of the most underrated shows on Nickelodeon. That show was very cool. More people need to start talking about it because people always bring up Drake and Josh iCarly, sometimes Victorious, but Ned's Declassified was a complete departure from those where it focused mainly on school, and you had all kinds of interesting characters, you had all kinds of crazy things happen. It was almost like an animated sitcom, and the Fairly OddParents made a reference there, or they were in the show because Darren Norris was Gordy the janitor, and I realized, you know what, that actually seems more like a live-action adaptation, or would be a good live-action adaptation, of the Fairly OddParents, but this, it just seems like they're shoehorning it in. What I'm assuming happened there is they had an idea for a sitcom or something, and then they just decided, why not throw the Fairly OddParents in for brand recognition? But let's talk about this, shall we? Because it doesn't matter what else the trailer showed. There's the one screenshot of who is Ty Turner. Apparently it's not even Timmy Turner, but it looks like him. Apparently it's a relative. Either way, it does not matter. It's trying to emulate who Timmy Turner was. So, just looking at the design
first off, the hat. Why is the hat a different pink from his shirt?
Too expensive for the budget to actually get a hat that matches the shirt. Because the rest of the budget went for, let's see, he's got a chain. I don't remember anyone in the Fairly OddParents wearing a chain as part of their look.
Princeton?
I'm trying to think of an explanation, but I really can't think of one there. And just the look, it looks like he's just staring at whoever the audience is, or he's looking somewhere, and he just looks like he just farted, and it was the loudest fart in the world, and then everyone's mad at him, and then he's just smiling about it, thinking it's the funniest thing ever. And you have a reference to Tad and Chad. I didn't even know they had names.
That's relevant since season 1.
I noticed that the Fairly OddParents just ditched a bunch of established characters to introduce new ones. And also that look that he has, just staring at the audience. It looks like he's about, or staring at whoever it is. I don't know who the other characters are, because it looks, nothing of this resembles the Fairly OddParents, but it looks like he's about to lecture them that they need to leave Earth before it's recycled. That's what it looks like.
Apparently the kids are related to Timmy as well, because their last names are Turner.
I have no idea what even the show is. Now, many people have stated, just by looking at that one screenshot that's always shared of Timmy Turner or Ty Turner, that it looks like a really bad SNL parody. It looks like a really bad SNL skit. But I've seen another one where it looks like one of those extremely bizarre, just parodies of a TV show. And Saberspark said something about that on Twitter, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it does. I was watching a review of one of them, and he said in the review, SpongeBob played by this guy who looks like Patrick turned into a real boy, and he shows a picture. He's doing the exact same pose. He's doing the exact same pose. And I'm just thinking, yeah, when I think of the voice of SpongeBob, this is exactly who I think would play him. So I want to talk a little bit about the history of the Fairly OddParents, because I consider SpongeBob, the Fairly OddParents, and Jimmy Neutron the Triforce of Nicktoons that I used to love watching. Only one of those shows was consistently good. That's Jimmy Neutron, but unfortunately that was a show that ended too soon. It was supposed to get a 4th season. It did have kind of a story arc. I'm not sure if it would have been good, but at the very least, Jimmy Neutron didn't overstay his welcome. I wish he could use one of his devices to make sure that he could have canceled the Fairly OddParents or SpongeBob from getting these spin-offs. Jimmy, what are you doing there? We have a reboot to do, right? Let's look at the history of the Fairly OddParents. Started out as an oh yeah cartoons thing. The idea was good. It got picked up to be a full show. First few seasons, excellent. In fact, I would say that the TV movies that were there were also excellent. They were entertaining, they were creative. Channel Chasers being my favorite episode of the series because it had a really cool plot where Timmy meets his future self, and also seeing the references to TV shows was also fun to watch.
I also really like School's Out.
Yeah, it was interesting that they tried doing a musical, and even the one Abracatastrophe...
With a clown.
Yeah, that was funny. The clown.
The drunken clowns that have hepatitis!
I can't believe that movie actually happened, but regardless, I think the Fairly OddParents would have been fine if it just lasted for a few seasons. Then the show got cancelled, then revived with Fairly Odd Baby. Some saw that as a decline. I kinda did because Poof wasn't a very interesting character. He just served as a point of conflict because he'd always cause mischief. But then they added Anti-Poof. They added Sparky in 2013. They added Chloe. And then they cut the budget, put the show on Nicktoons, and animated it in Flash. So it looked like they were finally ready to just drag the Fairly OddParents out and just say goodbye to the show. But no, this is happening now. And of course, everyone's been bringing up the 3 live-action movies. The first one, I believe, aired in 2011 and it had Drake Bell in it. I mean, it's quite obvious why he's not in there.
Jared.
Of course. Of course. So much for the Drake and Josh reboot now.
Or you mean Jared and Josh?
I think if they do a reboot, it's just going to be and Josh, and it's just going to be Josh Peck doing improv.
So, how about that airplane food? Boo!
No, I'm just imagining it. It'll be just Josh Peck making jokes, and then he's going to get an air horn and blast it in his ear and say, ah! Here's what I don't get. Out of all shows to reboot, why get the show that has beaten a dead horse with a dead horse so much? I'm guessing it's for money. Of course it's for money. I don't know who this is for.
The IP still. I guess because isn't Butch Hartman still popular on YouTube?
I think so. There's been just controversy surrounding Butch Hartman with the Oaxis stuff. Kickstarter stuff is just an entirely different can of worms. I remember there was a Kickstarter for a game made by the creator of Super Mario Crossover, and this was 10 years ago, and the game still hasn't released, and he pretty much just took the money and ran. That's why I don't like Kickstarters. Sometimes they turn out good, though. Shovel Knight was amazing, but regardless, I don't know if Butch Hartman is involved with this at all, but it just looks...
I think he was originally, and then I think he dropped out.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised, but this looks... It looks ridiculous. It's not a show that makes me angry like Camp Coral did because there's a dispute on whether or not Steven Hillenburg would have approved of it. This is something that, Butch Hartman could have approved of, could have not. It just looks so... It looks like a parody. It looks like... It does look corporate. It looks like a very weird parody of the Fairly OddParents. It looks like something that, I don't know, Smosh would make if they were talking about shows in real life, and this would probably be one of the skits. But I could guarantee you Smosh would be more true to the source material. Also, speaking of reboots, why not reboot Jimmy Neutron? That's a show that the only thing that it's really gotten in the past decade is, of course, Planet Sheen, which wasn't good by any means. And also a Chrysler commercial, which really had good animation. So I could see potential in them bringing Jimmy Neutron back. You mentioned Scott Fellows, right?
They did bring Johnny Test back on YouTube for a little bit. It didn't really work, but he was back.
That's two things that won't work. But I'm thinking maybe bring back Big Time Rush. That was another show that was popular at the time.
Actually, I thought Big Time Rush was pretty funny.
I thought it was too, and it also had a very weird cameo with Patchy the Pirate.
It did?
You didn't know that?
No. The show was weird.
I mean, yeah, it was weird. It was very similar to how Ned's Declassified was, where it was kind of played out like an animated show. But I could see potential in bringing that back. Even Victorious, because that show ended on the same note where it's just kind of like it didn't have a proper ending. They just got rid of the show for some reason. I'm guessing it's because of Ariana Grande or something, because I heard that there were a lot of conflicts there.
I know that, like, for Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, it could be Ned's Declassified Life Survival Guide. Like, you could just be an adult.
Yeah, if they're gonna bring back reboots, why not bring back the shows that have potential to continue? Why bring back a show that's overstayed its welcome so long that it got demoted to Flash animation?
Yeah, what's next? Rugrats, but 80-year-olds?
Well, the Rugrats reboot isn't much better. Also, Rugrats, that show had a lot of spin-offs too. And to be fair, Rugrats All Grown Up ended in 2008, and they really didn't do anything with the series. I still think that the original run of the show was the best. All Grown Up was alright. But I do think that, just with the show specifically, they really got to look more at the underrated ones, the ones that never lived up to their full potential, either due to network problems and such, or just lack of viewership. El Tigre would be another cool show they could bring back.
Oh, that would be awesome. I love El Tigre.
In essence, I don't think that the idea of reboots or spin-offs are bad, but it just seems that Viacom is milking these shows that are already established and were popular at one point for all they're worth. I think the iCarly reboot, fine, that makes sense. Rugrats reboot, fine, that makes sense too. But how many freaking SpongeBob movies do you need, and why do we need another live-action Fairly OddParents thing where it just... I'm at a loss for words. I think it's gonna be funny, like it's gonna be so bad it's good, but...
Yeah, you know what would be funnier? If Timmy or Ty actually sounded the way we imagine. Hey!
If he doesn't, we could just dub over the show and make a parody of it. That'd be it for an interesting video, but anyways...
It's just gonna sound like Doug Levinson.
You know, artist! An artist respects the silence that serves as the foundation of creativity. Well, anyways, before I lose more brain cells, I'm going to go and play some Wii Play, that game that came with the Wii Remote, and I may or may not be making a Trash or Treasure episode about it. Now, I'm already losing brain cells doing this discussion, so I'm gonna lose more by playing Pose Me. Any last thoughts?
Well, I think I'm just gonna play Wii music and play the drums with it with my weird style haircut that's a mohawk.
Are you gonna have a seizure too?
No, well, I mean, it depends on what you think it is.
I mean, the Wii has a seizure warning at the beginning, and I'm assuming that that warning was because of Robbie Drum's performance at E3 2008.
Yeah, I wouldn't... God. What a great time. Cammy Dunaway.
Where is Cammy Dunaway when we need her? Could you just imagine if Cammy Dunaway came back to reveal Switch Sports? Alright, we are playing Switch Sports. Let's see this game. Alright, I'm gonna play golf. I hurt my wrist. Oh wait, golf isn't even here. I'm out of here. Well, anyways, thanks for watching. I am T&D.
And I'm Demeech.
And hey! Keep coming down, will ya?